Welcome to the first episode of UbiBlog Replay, where, in honor of Ubisoft's 30th anniversary, we're going to take a look back at landmark Ubisoft games and what made them special. We'll begin with one of the most revolutionary titles in Ubisoft's library, one that arrived in 2002 and left creative shockwaves that still reverberate through countless modern games.
Sam Fisher.
Taking a more realistic approach to stealth than other games at the time, Splinter Cell teaches us to stay quiet, keep low, and above all, to never be afraid of the dark. Set in the then-future year of 2004, Splinter Cell introduces Sam Fisher, a gruff NSA super spy sent to covertly investigate a now unlikely enemy, Georgian President Kombain Nikolads, who's pursuing a clandestine ethnic cleansing campaign in Azerbaijan. Nikolads flees early on, however, sending Sam on a series of global missions to hunt him and his accomplices down. Sam can operate anywhere with impunity by invoking the Fifth Freedom, that is, a total disregard for any laws, treaties, or ethical considerations to protect American interests by any means necessary. While that theoretically lets him shoot his way out of any situation, in practice, he relies heavily on super advanced sneaking techniques to stay out of sight and undetected. In fact, Splinter Cell accentuates its stealth much more strongly than its action, to the point that triggering alarms or even being spotted can sometimes lead to mission failure.
That's one alarm too many. The mission's over.
And while the game features action-centric stages, it's not uncommon for Sam to be outright forbidden from killing anybody, most notably when he brazenly infiltrates CIA headquarters unarmed, and forced instead to rely on close-quarters knockouts, less lethal ammunition, or just sticking to the shadows and avoiding people. Sam's closest and most important ally is darkness. So long as he's crouching in a sufficiently shadowy corner, he's practically invisible unless someone bumps into him. That's especially impressive considering how many glowing green lights he wears. Even better, Sam can create his own darkness by hitting switches or shooting out lights. This also comes in handy when you need a quick hiding place for an incapacitated enemy. Unassisted, Sam can't see any better in the dark than his enemies, which is where his trademark goggles come into play. At any time, he can switch to night vision, revealing his surroundings in sharp greenish-gray relief. And since so much of the game is shrouded in darkness, you may find yourself seeing a lot of it this way. He's also equipped with thermal sight, which can help you quickly spot enemies, and is useful for picking your way through fiery disaster areas. And that's just the beginning of his arsenal of gadgets. He carries a fiber optic cable for peeking under closed doors, as well as a rifle that can shoot sticky cameras and non-lethal ammunition. Splinter Cell is also notable for having one of the earliest examples of a lockpicking minigame, which challenges you to find the sweet spot on each tumbler by rotating an analog stick. Sam's particular talents don't end with his gadgets and his ability to creep around silently. His signature move in the first Splinter Cell was the split jump, which let him mantle off walls and suspend himself in midair to ambush unsuspecting enemies. The timing is tricky to pull off though, and it only worked in narrow corridors with high ceilings, which may be why it was phased out of later games. Still, that challenge only makes perching up high and then dropping onto a bad guy's head more satisfying. For all its emphasis on cloak and dagger skullduggery, Splinter Cell is at its most memorable and difficult when it explodes into action, sometimes literally. An investigation of an oceanic oil rig becomes seared into memory when the US starts bombing it, turning an otherwise simple tailing mission into an obstacle course of fire, twisted wreckage, and enemies with hair-trigger awareness. A later attack on Nikolads' thugs serves as both a palate cleanser and a complete surprise, as stealth becomes mostly useless and Sam is forced to go loud in tough-as-nails firefights against enemies who can detect him almost immediately. Splinter Cell's then unique approach to sneakery and shooting was hugely influential in the early 2000s, helping to spark a boom in stealth games and action games with stealth segments, and its visuals, considered in 2002 to be some of the best ever seen, still hold up remarkably well for a 14-year-old game. But it's Sam himself who's endured through the years, shifting his skill set and allegiances while never quite shedding his essential gruffness,
Is that a joke?
his flexibility in tense situations, or his iconic goggles. Even now, the game that started it all is still uniquely compelling to play, if more than a little unforgiving.
Agency trespasser on surveillance.
We hope you've enjoyed this first episode of UbiBlog Replay. For more on Ubisoft games old and new, be sure to keep your eyes on UbiBlog.